Hello there, and welcome to the ROKIT Props channel, where today I talk about lightsabers. I never followed the lightsaber fandom so closely as to be minutely duplicating every minor scratch of an original prop, and much of the prop saber details that are known today took literally decades of research by the most dedicated fans and surviving production crew, who, when you're in a production with deadlines, you just want to get it done and not worry at all about the minute details the overly obsessive fan demands from those who were originally involved. Today's modern Disney-fied Star Wars fandom live in a time where lightsabers are apparently carried by everyone in the universe, which only proved Syndrome right when he said that when everyone is super, no one is. But back when they were invented in the mirror ball days of the disco age, and when special effects were often done by hand one frame at a time, the lightsabers of Star Wars were the most awesome things ever seen in a movie. Today's lightsabers could be just about anything and in almost any shape. From one- and two-handed models, sabers based on Japanese katana handles, extra long ones with two or more blades, ancient Victorian or Art Deco sabers, even rotating sabers that are really great until you stick a pump to the wheel. Here, however, we're going back to the very beginning. To quote the novelization of Star Wars, Obi-Wan handed Luke a small, innocuous-looking device, which Luke studied with interest. It consisted primarily of a short, thick hand grip with a couple of small switches set into the grip. Above the small post was a circular metal disc barely larger in diameter than a spread palm. A number of unfamiliar jewel-like components were built into both handle and disc, including what looked like the smallest power cell Luke had ever seen. The reverse side of the disc was polished to a mirror brightness, but it was the power cell that puzzled Luke the most. Whatever the thing was, it required a great deal of energy, according to the rating form of the cell. I'm not sure if anyone has ever tried to build a lightsaber according to the novel's description, but I imagine it would look absolutely nothing like what we got to see in 1977 Star Wars. Indeed, while I tried to find such a thing in a search and found nothing that I thought matched, I did find these Ralph McQuarrie production drawings of the lightsaber props in one of the many saber threads of the Replica Prop Forum that matches the novel's description as well as anything. But what we got in Star Wars was one of the most famous examples of collecting commonly used found objects that look interesting and then turning them into the formal weapon of a Jedi Knight, not as clumsy or random as a blaster, which themselves were also commonly found weapons in parts of the time. At least they were in England, where much of Star Wars was filmed, which certainly helped in a movie of very limited budget. In the case of Star Wars, after a number of prototypes of handles and working reflective blades were made that didn't work all that well, and with time running short, the production designer Roger Christian came up with the wizard idea of using large format camera flash units for the lightsaber props, which became what Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader used. Obi-Wan's saber, however, was more in keeping with the later-to-be-invented Jedi tradition of a student being required to construct their own lightsaber before they can graduate into knighthood, where the Obi-Wan was made of parts from several different things, including part of a grenade and a faucet handle. When put together, became a really awesome looking prop. Back in the day, like every other fan who saw Star Wars hundreds of times in the theater, I was searching for Graflex flash units and the Chrome Highland one of Vader's, before everyone found out the Vader one was actually a MPP brand, when it wasn't a Graflex with MPP parts stacked on, and long before they started getting replicated as licensed and unofficial products. I eventually discovered my photographer parents when they bought a 4x5 speed graphic camera in 1947, actually had the instruction manual for a Graflex synchronizing flash that was the Luke Saber. I found they came in a number of configurations, from the curved head by itself with a clamp, to different length battery tubes where you can fit from 2 to 5D cells in it. Yes, I so wanted to go to a convention as Luke wearing a 5-cell Graflex, because my saber is bigger than yours and all that. Unfortunately, I never found the extension tube, and instead I found YouTube. Photography shops and camera collectors have long since found that, mostly thanks to Star Wars fans, the supply of vintage camera equipment that just happened to be used in Star Wars was becoming really scarce, particularly old original Graflex flashes, and especially old MPP flashes, which apparently are so rare it's not all that surprising I've never seen one in real life. And they've become very reluctant to sell any of it to people who would turn them into lightsabers. Indeed, it's in my opinion that it may be that finding an original Graflex unit that works on a camera today is more rare than seeing them modified as lightsabers. But to go to the subject of today's video, what I did find to build up is something that became the genesis of one of the more unique and convincing old school lightsabers ever seen. So going back to the olden days, when I saw this flash unit, I knew it could be the start of something good. Indeed, to this day, I'm really surprised this model wasn't used in a Star Wars production of any era. So about 30 odd years ago, I made this. This is an E-Lights Celis Model 8 flash unit, 11 inches long, made in the USA, and similar to some of the smaller devices you'll see on Luke Skywalker's and Han Solo's belts. This came in as the black body and chrome extension, with the 1/4-20 threaded hole to mount on a tripod. And with the help of the amateur prop making group I was with at the time, High Impact of Northern California, I acquired parts from a rather massive 2 GB disk drive to make the business end of the saber. And instead of using rubber or plastic strips or something machined as the grip, one of the High Impact members and I came up with a twin wrap of bare copper wire and braided grounding tube secured on both ends. And of course, one of the nice things about using the core from a 2 GB hard drive was it had a very definite hole for the light beam to shoot out of. I mean, how is a Jedi going to have any sort of beam come out of a saber with a plugged in? One of the details of all 3 original Star Wars lightsabers was the clamp band, with the added strip of something inserted for detail, with pretty much all the lightsabers from Star Wars having a bubble plate from early calculators, and with at least Luke's sabers of the later 2 movies using edge connectors from circuit boards. But I went for something a little different, with my advantage of both the black body and the chrome extension having clamping slots so I could use 2 strips. For the main body, I chose a line of diodes in their packaging, which gives a little bit of color to the saber, and it isn't the usual circuit board or bubble strip. And for the one on the chrome extension, I found a circuit board with a very 60s and 70s wavy circuit design that's much more interesting to look at than the bog standard edge connector design. And what vintage lightsaber would be complete without a D-ring to hang it on your belt? No plastic prequel clip-on here. All this made my saber rather heavy, of course, at over 700 grams, so one would have to lean more on the force just to swing it around against the Sith. And to be sure, over the years, the copper has tarnished and there's a few chips in the paint. But for a used universe, it endures. So whether you're the greenest Padawan, the knightliest Jedi, or the last laser master, this lightsaber glow-tubey thing is the ticket to ultimate knowledge of the Force. So thanks for watching, and the Force will be with you when you subscribe to me, ROKIT Props. And if you're on a bike, you'll get an extra 5 watts, guaranteed.